Welcome to the Safe Business Agility Podcast. This is the place to get advice, stories, perspectives, and updates about safe and related topics to help you work differently and build the future. This week's episode is brought to you by Rally, the only purpose-built solution designed to scale Agile and unite the enterprise to empower value stream management and digital transformation. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to another episode of the Safe Business Agility Podcast. This one is kind of interesting. We typically look out and talk to amazing people in the community, but this time we wanted to look in and talk to the amazing people on our own team. So I've got with me today two of the six brains that make up the Safe Summits team, Eric and Karen, and we want to talk about all of the things that go into putting on an awesome summit. Karen.
I love how I always get to go first.
You do, because I mean, honestly, you're sitting across the table looking at me and I'm half scared. Like, I never look at Eric and feel scared, but sometimes I look at Karen and I'm like, I hope I'm not in trouble, because I know very kind Karen.
Right.
I don't want to get in trouble.
No, and do I have my mom death stare going on right now?
No, you look super happy today. Like, you're just bright and happy.
I am very happy because my youngest son decided where he's going to college.
And
he is going to be, wait for it, Go Cyclones, Iowa State University. So it's exciting because I'm almost an empty nester.
That's really cool. And so I've heard, oddly as it might be, a lot about Iowa in the last 2 days. And there's people in my friend circle that have come from Iowa, and they're just really good people. And like, I'm a big dirt bike fan, and my favorite mechanic in the world of pro racing is from Iowa. His name's Brent Duffy, and he was just talking about like just how cool it is and how like chill the Midwestern vibe is, and everybody just works hard, and it's just a good place.
Yeah, I'm originally from the Midwest. I'm a Chicago native. And going back to Iowa this past weekend, we did a final tour, and everyone was so nice. I mean, my neighbor is a former Cyclone as well, so he connected me to old fraternity brothers, people at the university, and everyone was so welcoming. Like, we went to a tailgate, we didn't know anybody. They're like, sit down, have some sandwiches with us. Can we get you anything? And, you know, just telling us information about the university, which I think really helped my son to make a decision, because it's scary as a 17-year-old trying to, what am I going to do with the next 4 or 5 years of my life?
Well, it's nice to have options. When I was that age, I didn't have options. It was just like the school that would take my money. So I gotta know though, what's the vibe like at a tailgate in Iowa? Because I know, like, I've been to Ole Miss,
Okay.
and everyone's dressed nicer than I dress to go to church.
Yep.
I've been to tailgates at Penn State where everyone's just trying to keep warm. So what's the vibe like in Iowa?
This was a cross between, well, it was a nice day, so it was in the 50s, so we didn't have to worry about the keep warm, but it was just kind of like your down-home backyard barbecue hospitality where everyone was just really friendly. I couldn't believe how many parking lots they had, as well as all the RVs that they had. It was just insane. I had never seen anything like that before. But everyone was nice and friendly. Like, come on down.
Have some fun. Have
some fun, yeah.
Eric, what about you? What's your tailgate tips?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many, Adam, and I don't know where to begin. I am also a buff. I am a local guy. Of course, I came here when the football team was very, very good. Now I'd say we're okay. We're not the one-win team we were last year, but we're getting a little bit better. But tailgate tips, get there early, bring some balls, be active, run around, do some stuff, as well as have the drinks and all the sandwiches.
How do you feel about Coach Prime?
Boy, we could spend the whole podcast on that, to be honest.
Maybe we'll catch that one up later.
I like him as a person very much. I'll be the first to say I think the hype around him is getting a bit beyond a fever pitch, but I think he's a good human being. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely, it's way different. I think when I came out here for Immersion Week in September, it's when they were still undefeated, and my little Hyatt place that I've stayed at for like ever, it was packed, and they were even selling swag in the lobby. It was unreal.
It's changed the town. There is no doubt, and you could argue whether it's for the better or the worse.
Well, it's cool to see some positive attention.
There's no doubt about that.
For sure.
All right, so let's talk about some summit stuff. So this year, we'll be doing 2 summits. We're going to Berlin and we're going to DC, and this will be our 8th year of doing summits. Whether or not we count that first partner summit or not, we can debate later. But this will be our 8th year of doing summits. And I've only been on the periphery of while you all work, and it's dizzy for me. So what I'd like to know is, I mean, we'll start with Eric because Karen said I always start with her. So we'll start with Eric this time. Eric, when you and I first met, when you first started here, you were coming off of just like some chill downtime. So like, tell us what's your history in events? Like, how did you get into this? What do you love about what you do?
Boy, that's a great question. I always say I somewhat backed into the event world. I was out of college. I went to work for a management consulting company. We were a very small one. And one day the owner just came to me, I think we should start doing offsites. I think we should take people from organizations, large Fortune 500, go bring them somewhere for a weekend, have a bunch of fun and do some work at the same time. I was like, heck yeah, sure, I can do that. I'd never done an event before, so started pulling that together. From there, I went on to a sports media company where we did various sporting events around the world, ski races, velo swaps, if you remember Velo News from the old Boulder days. And then after that, I got lucky. I've always been a soccer man. Soccer's always been in my blood ever since I was a little kid.
That's football for our European friends.
That is football, and that's what I usually say. But since I'm here with you in America, because as the story goes, I lived in Europe for about 14 years working on international soccer events. And that's basically what I did. It was just went around the world, small events, all the way up to the big World Cup that happens every 4 years.
You're going to tell them what organization you worked for?
Well, it's, I don't know how I say the name, FIFA, which I'm sure some people
that
in
little
our,
thing?
in our
Just that
audience
little thing.
may be aware. It's funny, though, when you live in Europe and you say FIFA, every single person knows what you're talking about. When you come to America, it's not the same, although that is changing over time. But to expand on the answer, I love bringing people together. I do this in my personal life. We're constantly entertaining, having friends over, and it just naturally happened in my professional life as well. It's just I love the in-person events, and that's why COVID was extra trouble for me. We can talk about that. But just bringing people together for a common purpose, whatever purpose that might be, it excites me beyond belief.
Eric, one of the things you just said there, like it hits me so hard, and it makes me think of a few other people in my life, and then also how you're similar to them. So I'll call out two people specifically, my friend Jenna and my other friend Blair. And the first time I met Jenna, we worked at Under Armour together. And she just had this vibe about her that it was really powerful. It was like a magnet. And as we became friends, one of the things that I just sat back and watched about her that I thought was so cool is how she could pick people out of a bar or a restaurant and identify something about them and a reason why the two of them should come together and connect. And in her professional life, in her personal life, she does that. She just recognizes in people the need to connect with others. And she's really good at figuring out where those two magnets are, where they attract it. I just think it's so cool. And my friend Blair is also, she's that plus like 4 levels where she does that. But then also she does the follow through of, hey, we went and had this good time and we took a selfie together. Here's that picture printed out in a frame. I want you to know I had a great time. And just that ability to bring people together and create connection, whether you know them or not, and not necessarily wanting anything in return. I think that's one of the most powerful gifts that a human can have.
Yeah, I just love that. And it's the way I've always lived my life. It's funny when I think about it. Every project I've been on, somehow I've become the lead. Every sports team I've been on, I've become the captain. And doing the nitty gritty as well, which we'll talk about this summit. Who's going to show up for the game this weekend? Are you going to be there? Are you hurt? But I can't say it enough. Just bringing people together. It's such a cliche, but that's where the magic happens. You get people together, you get them in person, look eye to eye. And I find that's the only way you can truly, truly get to know people and start relationships with them. Again, why the last few years have been trouble for, I think, a lot of us.
100%. And I'll be the first to admit too, I'm not the best at that, right? I'm naturally a pretty introverted person, and it takes a lot for me to go out and, want to do it. Whenever it's professional, I can do it easy. I mean, I think like at our closing party in Nashville this year, I stood at the door and I welcomed every single one of the 2,000 people that walked in. But then what you didn't see is as soon as that was done, I was out of there because I was done. Social cap.
Why do you think that is? Where do you think that comes from, Adam?
What, my introversion?
Well, being introverted in one scenario, but extroverted in another. How do you think that happened?
Well, Eric, because I look at people like you and I recognize something I don't have in myself, and I want to do my best to build that skill, so I force myself to do it. I don't want to be that weird introverted person in the corner. Not to say that introverts are weird, but I feel weird, right? When I'm that person sitting in the corner, I feel awkward. And then I feel like when I feel awkward, other people recognize me as feeling awkward, and I don't want that. So I work really hard to be outgoing and to be extroverted. And I'll say professionally, I can do it 100% of the time. Personally, probably not going to do it. I'm probably just going to sit in the corner by myself and eat dinner and be totally cool with that. So I think for me, I recognize the shortcoming of my own personality and I do my best to overcome it, but I don't do it all the time.
Understood. I like the minor psychoanalysis session. We should continue with that.
We don't have the proper drinks for that.
Understood.
Different for a Tuesday afternoon.
A little bit. What about you, Karen? How did you get here?
So I landed in this world kind of by accident, kind of not. At a very young age, I always loved organizing and creating things. So it was my birthday parties were over the top. My bat mitzvah was over the top. Everything I did was sort of always over the top. But I randomly answered an ad at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago for an administrative assistant. It was right out of college and, had just a general business degree like everybody else with marketing. And it happened to be for a woman who ran their expo hall. And I knew nothing about trade shows or trade show management at all. But she hired me on the spot. I like to think it was my winning personality and my can-do attitude. And then from there, I started to ask a lot of questions. I learned a lot, and I really was fascinated by all the logistics that goes into putting on a major event. And I got a nice behind-the-scenes look working in a convention center, seeing the load in, the load out, all the kind of grunt work that nobody sort of pays attention to make this wonderfully orchestrated trade show floor that's carefully curated. And then from there, I went over to Navy Pier in Chicago, which was a tourist destination, and I spent most of my career there, also working the logistics. And then I took some time off. I was a mom for a while.
To be clear, you're still a mom.
I'm still a mom.
Okay.
Always a mom.
I'm always a mom, but still organizing, right? I was like the super PTA mom, and I'm the baseball mom, Eric will tell you. But then a friend of mine connected me in the world of corporate marketing, and so I worked at a SaaS company. That was new for me. I had never kind of been on this side of it, planning their industry events. And then I got unemployed for a while, it happens with everybody. And then I wound up here at Scaled Agile. And they kind of took a risk on me to start working on the summits and the hosted events because that was very different. But I felt like with my background in logistics, that made me really good and strong. I brought that other opinion. We were a crew of 2 for a long time when I first started here in 2018 until we've grown the team. And now under Eric's leadership, we're mighty 6 people.
I think it's really cool that, you found that balance. And I think that, we're super lucky to have you and, Eric's now part of the team, obviously. And well, let's go down that path, right? Because we had some really cool summits. San Antonio was kind of one that was the first big one. And that's one that everyone really remembers. DC, when we were there, that was pretty cool. And then, we had, was it San Diego after that?
San Diego for the U.S. And
San
then we
Diego.
had done The Hague for our European event in 2019.
And then it all shut down.
And then the world shut down.
So let's talk through that, because when we talk about, the need of the world, right? This whole need for business agility and the ability to pivot quick. I think for us and everybody else, right? 2020 was the test to that because we had gone through PI planning. I think we were getting ready to start booking tickets for Europe. We were rapidly down the path of planning Denver. And then we had to pivot. So let's talk about that. Mentally, what was that like to go from planning 2 in-person events to figuring out this online thing?
It was very stressful at that time. I literally was getting off a plane from LAX, doing a site visit for a future year summit when everything shut down. And there was this uncertainty. Nobody knew what was going to happen, what to do. And then it was like, all of a sudden, okay, we got to pivot to virtual. And nobody on the team had a skill set for that. I mean, outside of, we've all done, Zoom meetings. But on this scale, nobody really knew what to do. So it was really stressful. We had to quickly learn a lot of new skills, vet out vendors, try to figure something out. Looking back on it, we made a few bad choices. Anyone who'd come to any of our virtual summits, there was always those hiccups. But it was hard, and we were a very small team at that time, so trying to get that done with the 3 or 4 people we had was super challenging.
Well, I think the things that we learned, we did too, right? I mean, so there's 2020 and 21.
Yeah.
And what I remember about 2020 was it was a good experience. I mean, there were definitely the hiccups, right? I mean, the things that we didn't know, in terms of bandwidth and just all of the things. But given the state of the world at the time, I thought it came together pretty cool. And then the difference between 20 and 21, it was we had brought in a whole bunch of people that have done this their entire lives. I know there were still some hiccups, but for the most part, 2021 was just rock solid.
Yeah, we got smarter in terms of just understanding the needs of the end users. It's like 2020 was more of an experiment. Like we did this, we built this thing and it worked. But then we did some, retros on it and looking back on it, just trying to understand from the user experience what they were getting on the other side. So I do agree with you. I think in 21 we did it better. We had more bells and whistles, the ability for people to connect a little bit easier. That first year we sort of struggled because everyone was just watching online, much like when you watch TV at home, and there wasn't much interaction. And I feel like we did get better in 21 trying to have people interact.
So, Mr. In-Person, let's call it the sales process of how we went from online in 21 to the decision to go back face-to-face in 22. 'Cause I know just from my vantage point, there was a lot of back and forth, right? Because we still didn't know what was going on in the world, how things were going to come together, what was okay, what was not okay. What was it like to advocate for that, and why do you think it was so important, especially in 2022?
Yeah, and it's funny. I came on right in the midst of that decision. And we'd even gone back and forth with the venue at that point between, a contract had been signed, but this is one of those reasons why you can get out of a contract. So then it got delayed another year. Okay, we'll have you in 2022. Then with COVID, I mean, the whole discussion internally, is this safe? Pardon the pun. Are we gonna bring people back together? And it was somewhat, of course, we're trying to fight. We went through the process, everybody did in the world, following the science. Are we going to treat our people the way they should be treated? And trying to weigh that with, we all want to be back together. We want to see each other. We want to go forward. And so you may remember, we did put a cap on the total number of people who could come to the event. And we also did have a vaccine requirement for the event, which, as you know, is a controversial decision for a lot of people. But we made the decisions at the time that we certainly thought were the best to hold the safest in-person event we could. And I'd like to think, after it was all said and done, all those decisions were borne out. It was incredibly successful, and it jettisoned us into the in-person realm again.
Man, what a cool experience that was. It was weird because I didn't, personally, I went from traveling full time for basically a decade to not traveling at all for a year and some change. And to get back to a place, not only where I had to, put on pants and, like be places, but to be in a room full of people that all wanted to hug and do all the things. It was hard that first year.
It was hard. And everything about it, masking, or even when you see, hugs, you'd approach some people and you could tell right away, okay, I'm not going to get too close. Others, it was, let me get in and grab you full steam because I haven't touched another human in a long time. And so it was that mix, and the energy was palpable. I mean, it was fantastic. It was just it felt like a welcome back for everyone in so many different ways.
And wow, then you look at Prague, what was that, 6 or 8 months later? And it was like all that awkwardness was just gone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like, what was that thing that had happened? Get over here, give me a hug.
Yeah.
And that was a cool event too, because it was, it's a gorgeous city. It was a tight venue. It was a lot of fun. So let's talk about those venues, right? Because when you look at bringing 2,000-ish people together with a big array of speakers, what are some of the things that y'all look for in a venue, and how does that selection process go? What goes into figuring out where the heck is it we do these things?
I would say at first, we still have the philosophy that we want to keep everyone under one roof. That's our goal. So all the sleeping rooms, all the meeting space, we want to keep everybody together. That alone discounts a lot of venues that there are. And at least at this point, and I am not trying to be harsh on Vegas at all, we have decided we may one day, we're not going to do a Vegas summit right now. So when you look for a venue that can host up to 2,000 people with the sleeping rooms, meeting space that can hold them all together, the choices are, there's not that many out there. And so I like to think we've looked at almost every one in the U.S. that can host one of that size. And when we go on site, you're looking for everything. From the moment you get out of your train, bus, car, whatever it might be, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're in that city that you're in? When you walk into the lobby, is it a good feeling? You look around, I feel comfortable here. This is a great place. Because we want to, of course, the most important thing is giving our attendees the content they're looking for, give them an event they can sink their teeth into. But we also know that people are getting away. They're getting away from their homes and families for a couple of days, and they want to have somewhere they can stretch out and relax a little bit. So it's trying to weigh both of those. It's not a vacation, but it also needs to be comfortable at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. I think for a lot of people, and I'll throw myself into this category, the only time I get out of the house during the year, the only time I travel, really to interesting places is when I go to Summit. I don't know, maybe that says more about me and my need to take vacations than it does about anything, but that's a different story for a different time. But when I was hosting in-person trainings, that's something else I was very conscious of, right? For a lot of people, this could be it for them. And who wants to go sit like in a, musty, dusty, inexpensive hotel conference space in some, dull city? Like, let's make this an event. And anytime I would do, like, say, an implementing safe or an RTE, it would always be, so implementing safe is a 4-day class. My classes were always 5 days because we'd come together early on the first day. We'd have a nice dinner together. We would go through the experience together. Usually at the end of the second night when the leading safe section is over, we would have some sort of a happy hour at some cool place with a cool view of that cool city. And then the last day, we would take the first half of that, Friday morning or whatever it might be, or I'm sorry, the last half of that day, and we go do something unique to that location, like a little sightseeing tour. And it was really more about the overarching experience that we're getting together as a group of people, because people, as adults, we don't have bonding experiences too often, right? We take, that for granted when we're in high school and college and everything, that we do these things and we create these relationships through the experiences. And it's important that we create those bonding moments for anyone that we bring together. And I think we do a great job of that for summits. I think for anyone doing in-person trainings, that's something to keep in mind, right? People are traveling. They're away from their families. You've got to make it worth their while. And anytime I did public training, I never looked at it as a profit center. If I broke even, it was good. And every few sessions then would yield a lead that became something profitable. But those in-person sessions were more about the relationships and the trust that we build together.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on what Eric was saying. It really is about the experience. So we're also looking at the levels of service within these hotels and how the staff interacts with guests, because that's really important to us. And to your point, people are with us for a whole week, sometimes at summits, and so you want them to be able to have that good experience, ample networking. So we're also looking, within the venues at the flow and kind of how we can lay things out. As of recently, we're really looking at hotels that have good sustainability practices. That's I think important to our team as a whole. And then anywhere that's easy to travel in and out, we do try to take that into consideration where our audience is coming from, and not try to pick a city that's in the middle of nowhere and takes like 4 trains and a bus to get there.
Yeah, and as I said, you want to give people a feeling of that city as well. And it's funny, when you were talking, Adam, I was thinking back to Denver. And for the people who are lucky enough to be there, who've been to that venue, you walk into this lobby and you see these windows, I don't know, they're 100 feet tall, staring at the Rocky Mountains. And that is the very first thing you see. And you know immediately, I am in Colorado. And we tried, and when we had the event there, it was Colorado-themed food, Colorado-themed drinks, even some of the music we played, local Colorado bands. Again, we try to give the attendees an experience and a feeling of where they are. And we're not just in a conference hotel down by the highway.
So it's not just darts against a dartboard.
No.
Not always, no.
PIplanning.io. If you know, you know. If you don't know, well, go check out YouTube. But you'll have that little jingle in your head the rest of the day. You're welcome. Today's episode is powered by PIplanning.io, the go-to solution for your PI planning needs. Struggling with remote planning sessions? PIplanning.io brings your team together wherever they are. It's user-friendly, incredibly effective, and makes complex planning a breeze by providing a real-time collaborative environment and seamlessly syncing planning results back to your ALM of choice. If you've ever had to do this sync manually like I have, you know how powerful this feature is and how much time it saves you. Elevate your Agile game with PIplanning.io. Plan smarter, deliver faster. Check it out today at PIplanning.io. Now back to the show. So, Karen, let's talk about the details a little bit, because I'll say I think the only time I ever see you frazzled is during the event. And that's because there's so much of your work is coming together right now, right? So how is it, as a detail-oriented person, how can you separate the things that you worry about versus the things that you just let go And it allows everything to come together in such a clean way, right? I mean, I'll say as a speaker, one of the things that I always appreciate is just the little things. It's like, hey, here's a box of chocolates. As Eric said, it's themed to whatever the area is. Everyone feels welcome. All of the little details are there, like everything to the pins and to the this and to the that and to the, how the trade show floor is laid out and just how everything comes together. And we can maybe pick some flow accelerators that go along with that, but that's a different conversation. So, I mean, again, how do you pick the things that you are willing to battle for? How do you decide what things to let go? And how do you just manage the stress of it all?
Oh, that's a lot to unpack. So the stress, I mean, leading into the summit, and Eric will probably tell you, like, we don't get a lot of sleep. I spent a lot of sleepless nights worrying about minutia. But once we get on site, I feel like the stress gets a little alleviated when I see two things. One, when I see all those attendees coming in and they've got smiles on their faces. They're happy to be there. They're excited about the event. And then I see how our staff, and for those of you that don't know, all the people that are wearing the Help Squad or ambassador shirts that you see on site, they're all full-time Scaled Agile employees. So we don't hire contractors for that piece. That's all the front of the house stuff it's our team, our extended team. And then just to see how they greet all the staff, the attendees, always puts a smile on my face because everyone's just so happy. And there's always those stressful moments. If you ever go into our show office, you'll find us all kind of bickering like a dysfunctional family, but that's to be expected. I think I just have to have trust in my fellow teammates and sort of trust in the process. And there's certain things that are just out of your control. And once they're on autopilot, there's little that you can do about them. I think we try to find problems before they become problems. And the things that we all worry about, I find the average attendee has no idea that that's happening. From their perspective, everything is, wonderful and all champagne and roses. So I don't know. It's hard. And you're right. I think my first event, I was a stress case in 2018 at DC and even in San Diego. Nashville was a lot calming, and part of it I think was the venue, was a city. I love country music, so I was like doing my little groove there. But I definitely relaxed a little bit because it's now that our team has grown, it's more of a well-oiled machine, and there are more helpers. So I think that gave me comfort in knowing that.
I think one of the cool things about our extended team as well is that you don't really have to worry about people not being where they're supposed to be or not doing what they're supposed to do. I think, once the schedule's built and the roles are defined, there's a lot of trust in just knowing our people are going to do what they're supposed to do. And that's got to be a load off your mind, right? Just knowing that we've got people who care about our customers, people who you don't have to worry about really saying or doing the wrong thing, and they show up. And the reciprocal of that is, hey, you're in a cool city, also go have some fun.
Yeah, I will say in Nashville, our Scaled Agile staff exceeded my expectations from any summit that I had ever been at. I mean, they just crushed it. And I think you notice a difference too, Eric.
There's no doubt about it. Again, I'm coming back to the same theme of being in person, but the smiles that you see on people's faces, and both our staff and the attendees, and they're just so incredibly excited to be there from both sides, the staff and the attendees. It pumps up the energy level.
Now that you've both mentioned, kind of the staff and the energy and like the greeting, all I can think of is Benji. Just like Benji out there with his energy and his big smile, just making everybody feel like $1 million.
Benji, Thomas Fountain, another one. Oh, Thomas, yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, even we did roundtables this last year in Nashville, which was new for us. And the globalization team we didn't know what we were doing. I kind of threw them in. They all had huge smiles. They mobilized. They figured everything out. And it was just amazing to watch. Everybody takes such pride in what they're doing. And to your point, we assign people roles, and they bring it with a smile every time.
One of the things that just blows me away about Jill's team is it feels like the week before an event kicks off is about the time you're doing site visits and contracts for the next event. So like, it's not even as though you can compartmentalize and say, oh, we're worried about, this year, like Berlin, because you're also worried about the next event and the next event and the next event. So it's not like you can even get some of that cool single piece flow. Everything is always intermixed. Like, how do you keep your sanity, Eric?
Well, it's funny you say that because about a week and a half ago, we were in Europe for a week. We were checking out Berlin to get ready for April 2024, but then we were also doing site visits for further summits. And then just tomorrow, we will open registration for Berlin. And so obviously it's a busy time around the shop as well. And I like to think, you ask me, how I feel, how do I keep my sanity? I love this. I mean, I just love the action. I love always something going on. We always say the summit is a culmination of 1,000 minor and major decisions. And even reaching, tomorrow's registration is a milestone for us, and then hopefully on Thursday, Friday, you get to take an inhale, you get to take a breath, but then you're just right back at it. Like you say, we just signed a contract for a summit that's so far in the future. I can't even believe we did it, frankly. But like you say, we always have our eyes on a few different prizes at the same time.
Well, that's super cool. So let's talk about Berlin. So one of the things I learned about hosting European events last year was the need to be near a railhead. I mean, Chris schooled me on this in his very Chris James sort of way. And that's the need to be near those rail centers. And you really only have two good options. And it's Berlin and it's Prague. And that's about it. It's like choosing between Atlanta and LAX. Which one you going to? Because those are your hubs. So let's talk about Berlin. Like, what are you willing to share of where we're going? Well, you can share the venue. Everyone's registering. So where are we going?
We are going to the Intercontinental Berlin. It was recent, literally in last week, they just announced they were voted the leading conference hotel in Germany. It's a hotel that's been there for a long time. I believe, I might get this wrong, that it's been operated as an Intercontinental since the 70s. And it was built for this purpose, to bring large groups together without being, it's 558 rooms. We will probably not use all of those at the event, but it also comes along with 55 conference rooms. It has a main hall that can hold up to 1,500 people. It is right on the rail line. It is literally right on the Tiergarten, which is the largest park in Berlin. It'll be perfect for running for you, Adam. It's a 35-minute walk from the Brandenburg Gate. And as Karen said before, it leads in sustainability, which is one of the number one choices when we look around at venues. And they just underwent, over the last 2 years, I think it was a 70 million euro renovation. And so the hotel it's looking great. It's ready to host us. We can't wait.
And so is this more of a central downtown location like Prague was? So can I run downtown, Eric?
Well, it's fun. When you talk about Europe, downtown can mean a few different things. Yes, you can run to the Brandenburg Gate, which is right next to the Reichstag, which is the equivalent of our capital. You can run to that in 15 minutes from this hotel.
Love it.
Yeah, and it is like a lot of big cities, but it is a runner's paradise. And when you say that, it just means it's a great place to be outdoors and to be outside.
And we can walk around, check out the restaurants. We actually had a teammate last year, and this is such a cool story. I don't know why I'm going to tell it, but I'm going to go down this path anyway. He was walking around Prague, and he's like, there's a lot of cool art in Prague. I wonder if there's any cool tattoo artists. And he got on Instagram, found one, jumped in, and got a tattoo in Prague from a really cool artist. But that's just one of the cool things about like these European opportunities. And for anyone that's interested in, a European vacation, right? I mean, it's so cool. I mean, I can say that for me, Prague this year was personally a transformational experience for a lot of different reasons. My family came from that area, and the church that my family went to throughout our entire history before they emigrated here, I got to go to in Prague, and it was built like in 1215, but it had burnt down in the 1500s. So, in all that time, it was 300 years newer than the cornerstone implied.
Wow.
But then you think about it, like nothing in this country is that old. Like not even remotely close. And just seeing like the architecture and feeling all the things and hearing the stories about this city. And, for me, thinking about that's where my family's from. Like these are my roots. This is my history. It was really cool. And I think for, a lot of people in the U.S., those are their roots. Like a lot of people came from Europe somewhere, whether it's Eastern Europe or Western Europe or something in between. It's a cool opportunity to go out there and to see the world, to experience things that are pretty close to our own culture, but also vastly different. And I think that's one of the coolest things about those global summits is just getting to see and feel and hear and smell just something different than what you're used to. I think for a lot of the folks that come to America to our summits that aren't from here, they kind of think, yeah, well, this is what we expected. This feels pretty America, especially this year we're going to DC. I mean, it's as America as it gets right there, right? You can sit there at that hotel's gorgeous too on the National Harbor, It's a beautiful waterfront
Yes, it
view.
is.
Yes.
And you're a short bike ride, and I did that in 2017 from everything. I think between my talks at Summit, I got to bike the entire National Mall. Came
That's
back,
cool.
showered, and I was back out there.
And it's also a short boat ride too, literally right from the hotel right to all the monuments on a boat.
So we're going to be in April in Berlin, in beautiful October in DC. One of the cool things about DC in the fall is that the weather's perfect, right? Everything's walkable. You can see everything, hear everything. And it's going to be another cool event.
There is no doubt about that. And it wasn't too long ago, we did a site visit of there as well. We're always checking these hotels because, like I said, they go under renovations as well. And it is just another space that it's perfect for our size. We're going to fill up this hotel. And it's nice when you can do that too, when the hotel is mostly just our people. And it feels great.
And if I remember correctly, that venue too, it's off to the side, and like there's all of the supporting establishments around it
Yeah.
that are there, but you're still kind of isolated. It's like you can get around and walk and go to dinner, but you're not really walking far, and it's still mostly going to be your conference attendees.
Yeah, and they've built up that National Harbor area since we were last there in 2018. There's a big Jumbotron now, but you're right, they have all those outlets, restaurants, bars, shopping and stuff. It's just like 3-4 blocks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, friends. So to wrap this up, if you had to give any advice to people coming to Summit for the first time, like to get the most out of it, what would be your top piece of advice, Eric?
Well, listen, if I'm putting on my scaled Agile hat, I will say download the app. Get the app, find out every single other person who is coming to this event, which attendees can see once they've registered, and then talk to every single one of them as much as you can. Set up a meeting ahead of time, find out who's going to be there, find out who's in your industry. Of course, we pride ourselves on putting on a wonderful program, but I think we can all agree the magic of the summit is networking, talking to people, find out the similar challenges they're going through, and brainstorming and just meeting people. So, the app is the easiest way to find out who's going to be there and then just go out and do it. Go out and talk to them. If you're sitting between sessions, somebody walks by, just reach out, grab them, say hi, introduce yourself.
I agree with that completely. So the first night of Summit, or the night before the first night, I don't remember what it was, I was having an introvert Adam moment. And I went and sat at a restaurant by myself. The only other seat at the bar was next to this woman who I thought, oh yeah, she's in my camp. I'm going to sit there. We're not going to talk. It's going to be great. And so I sat there, and she immediately turned and said, hi, my name is so-and-so. What are you here for? And so we ended up talking for probably 40 minutes. And the entire rest of the week, saw that person, high five every time we walked by. It is all about people. And I think this is a good place also to exercise some muscles that maybe you're not familiar with or not comfortable with. I know for me, like I said, I say hi to everybody. I will talk to everyone, and it's always worth it. It's hard in the moment to pull yourself out when you just want to kind of lay in your hotel room for 30 minutes and just be quiet. But to take the time to go out there and talk to the peeps, as Dean would say, talk to the peeps. It's worth it. Karen, what about you?
I would have said networking, but Eric stole my idea. But I'm going to say be present, be engaged, take advantage of all those opportunities. And it ties along with networking, but participate in everything and anything you can. Like sign up for a Safe Experts coaching station, talk to an expert one-on-one, participate in a roundtable. Please, please, please go check out our partner marketplace. I do all the sponsorships for that, so that's near and dear to my heart. But we have some wonderful partners that have a lot of safe knowledge and really cool products out there. So share the love with them and go have a conversation with them. You never know what you'll learn.
Adam, what's your tip for anyone who would be going to Summit, maybe wanting to get some information? Why, Adam, thank you for asking.
Oh, you beat me to it, Adam.
I would say come by the podcast booth, take a selfie, and take a sticker. It's a heck of a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
Eric, it's been such a refreshing thing to have you as part of the team because I think you bring an energy that it's different than a lot of people, right? You just show up and you're always, pretty chill and just like a good human. And Karen, I just love you to death. Like, I don't even know what else to say. Like, Thank you all so much for taking the time. I appreciate you.
But Adam, I have to interrupt you.
Okay.
Oh no, here it comes.
Wait, no, I'm the host, Eric. You can't. No, you can't put me on the spot.
This is why I have to do it. But I've been listening to your podcast for a long, long time, and I feel honored to be on it, and I'm serious because of you. I mean, you say such nice things about us, but I mean, you should hear how our team talks about you. Of course, we joke like we always do, but you are just somebody you can approach at any time with any problem, any topic, whether personal, work, anything. A cliche again, but a ray of sunshine. And I know you might not look at yourself like that, but you're a joy to work with and to be with and just to know. So I feel honored. Thank you, Adam.
Well, thanks for making it awkward, Eric.
Yeah, I do what I can. See, I'm trying to bring people together and get you out of your comfort zone.
All right. Well, thank you all so much again. Summits 2024, Berlin, and the dates are?
They are the 8th through the 11th of April.
And DC's dates are?
October 14th through 17th.
All right. And you can check out more by linking in the show notes. And we'll see you all in DC and Berlin. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The entire team at Scaled Agile is focused on helping you and your enterprise work differently and build the future. If you find this content valuable, please tell your colleagues and friends and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. To share your suggestions for the show, just drop us a line at podcast@scaledagile.com. I'm Adam Mattis. See you next time.